What up, fam? So we're back. Miss Lisa is here to bless us again with some more historical knowledge for healing with history. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Steph?
You know, I stay wonderful.
You do.
I try.
You do. I
try.
can tell. You do.
So who we gonna talk about today?
So today we're talking about Mary Eliza Mahoney.
So I'm about to learn something right now. She finna bless us. So I'm about to get some education. So go ahead, tell us.
So Mary Mahoney was the first African American trained, educated, and licensed nurse in the United States. And she's also one of the first women to register to vote in Boston. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of women who were once slaves or related to slaves or found freedom after slavery actually participated in the suffrage movement for women. And she was one of those women who fought for women's rights, despite the fact that she was a black woman and really didn't have much of a voice. Her parents were freed slaves. So it was significant that Mary would be able to go on, get an education, and become a nurse of all things. Nursing was kind of difficult at that time, though, because at that time, black women couldn't really get nursing jobs in hospitals. They would have to do private nursing care, and it was really difficult because they were all trying to get the same job, so there weren't that many of them. But Mary was really compassionate, and she was really dedicated, and she mostly took care of pretty much wealthy white families. As a nurse, she actually taught other women and trained other women to go into the nursing field. And what's beautiful about that is, I think today there's still a clinic that's named in her honor in Oklahoma. Not sure why it's in Oklahoma, because she's from Boston, but that's where it is. It's not much really that we know about Mary in terms of like monuments or any real acknowledgments. I don't even understand like how people don't understand that this woman who was descendant of slaves, you know, was educated enough and trained enough and got her bachelor's in nursing. And it was difficult because a lot of schools wouldn't train her. Her training was extensive, and at that time, when women went into nursing, you might have a nursing class of like 100, but like 12 graduates, right? And she graduated, and when she graduated, finding work was her hardest feat, but she did it. And so I think a lot of women today, a lot of black nurses today really owe it to her for her fight to get into nursing school, and it was in the city of Boston where she was able to go to school and practice.
That's amazing. Well, and then think about coming. So we always talk about our barriers and what holds us back, but to be coming from, you have the opportunity to achieve something, but you have so many things to address. So back then, not only you're free, but you have no true support or resources, and then you want to get in school, but you have limited support and help.
Yep.
But being resilient and staying focused on your task and trying to make sure like this is what I need to do to fulfill me. And I think that's a huge part of like we want to make sure that as we go through this and educate, it's not only educating, but it's an empowering piece.
Absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
Go achieve it. Go do it. Go build that bridge or create the cure to whatever needs to be created.
Or start that 501c3.
Yes.
Yep.
Because the community, as we know, is going to always have needs. And as we develop and grow, like there's things that, so like we have things that we focus on, but we're not going to be able to touch everything. And as a nonprofit, the TBA has things that they're going to address. But you all know as a community, there's other needs. And so go address those and build those. But you got to be knowing that there's a fight. You're going to have to be persistent and resilient, just like everyone else through these segments that we present. So, no, thank you so much. That was
Absolutely.
really wonderful.
And if I could add something to that, it's just that we hear we hear people talk about the obstacles, the things that hold us back, the things that get in our way. You know, what my childhood was like and how horrible it was and what we did or didn't have. Her parents were slaves. They were slaves. Slaves had nothing. Slaves were property. So her parents went from being property to having freedom. And when slaves were free, they weren't given any kind of check for their hard work. They got no benefit. They had nowhere to go. They were completely on their own once they were freed. And yet and still, this young lady wanted to be something that her parents were never allowed to be, which is educated. And not just educated, but educated and professional. And what I love about this is that the system was set up so that educating black women to be nurses at that time wasn't quite a threat to white society because they saw it as a servant role. But it opened doors for us. the fact that Mary Mahoney would go in that direction and she would get educated. She showed other descendants of slaves what they could do. She showed other black people around her what black people could really do. But what was great is that when she got her freedom, she had her freedom. Once she got her education, she kept fighting for more freedoms by participating and fighting in the suffrage movement for women and the right to vote. Women's rights was huge for her. And as soon as women got the right to vote in Boston, she was one of the first women in line to register to vote. And we're proud of her because today getting people to vote is so hard.
Yes. No. So y'all know this time again we're gonna be back on that voting piece because you gotta make sure your voice is heard. That's a side note. But no, thank you. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Another segment of Healing with History. That's all I got. You got something else?
I got enough, so I'm good.
All right, we out.
We out.
My bad. Hold on. I was ready. Wait. No. Wait, I'm ready.
That's my signature, my swoosh. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I got you.
That's my signature.
She said my swoosh. I was doing so
Woosah.
good.
I don't even believe in that, but go ahead.
Yeah. Woosah. No, that's
Whatever.
mine.
From Bad Boys.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. What did you
What's
say?
that?
That clap.
I didn't know what I was gonna say.
Oh.
All right.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.